My name is Natalia Vanegas, and I was born and raised in Colombia. So my Colombian culture plays a huge role in my life. The language that we speak in my home is Spanish, and we follow the religion of Catholicism. The role of family in my life is very big, as Colombian people tend to be very family oriented. They act as a source of loyal. They act as a source of support, and therefore great loyalty is shown between their families. It is common in Colombian culture. It is common for the children to remain at home until they marry, and the elderly are generally very respected, as Colombian society is typically hierarchical society. The Colombians love coffee as it is heavily cultivated in the country, are very nationalistic and patriotic, and are very passionate about soccer, and are also very formal in meeting new people. So that pretty much sums it up for Colombian culture, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the PowerPoint.
Hi, my name is Camila Pereira. I am a student at FIU and I'm majoring in communications journalism. I was born here in the US, but I always identify with my parents' cultures as half Chilean and half Uruguayan. Because they are both South American countries, it is expected that they have some similarities in their cultures. However, they are actually a lot more different than they seem. In both Chile and Uruguay, most of the population is Catholic, but religion is mainly emphasized in Chile since most traditions and celebrations are religious, such as Semana Santa, which is the week before Easter Sunday. Also, because religion is very important in Chilean culture, they tend to maintain a very structured hierarchical society that is divided between lower, middle, and upper class. Meanwhile, because the economy is very poor in Uruguay and the government is very corrupt, they do not have a very strict caste system since most of the population is generally poor. In both my cultures, family is very important, which is why when we had done that worksheet in class on what we valued the most, family was my number one choice. Although in Chile, men tend to have the authority in the household, while in Uruguay it is shared between the man and the woman. Because public education is not very good in both countries, they tend to emphasize on seeking good and high education systems such as sacrificing financially for your children to attend private schools for all their years of education in Chile and attending the top university in Uruguay. Proper etiquette is not generally emphasized in both cultures, but oftentimes they are implemented. For example, in Chile, people tend to use usted instead of tú when addressing or talking to their elders. And in Uruguay, they hate when you greet someone or when they are greeted by someone and the first thing they are asked is if they are Argentinian. Both cultures have a strong sense of pride in their nations and are very patriotic, which often reflects on international sports events such as the World Cup. In South America, soccer is taken very seriously. In both countries, they both have different foods that define their cultures, such as in Uruguay, with their famous asados and chivitos, and the nation's traditional drink, el mate. In Chile, empanadas and humitas are very popular, and Chileans take what is called once, an afternoon tea with bread and jam that often includes, or can include, cheeses and palta, which is avocados. Once means 11 in Spanish and is named after the British tea time, 11 a.m. Overall, my parents' cultures have influenced my perceptions and values to shape me into who I am today. However, traditional behaviors and views are not exactly what I follow. Religion is not mainly emphasized in my household, but I do consider myself Catholic if someone asks. In this century, people are not really following structured traditions, which is understandable since social media and other outlets have allowed us to see what it is like to live a more flexible lifestyle, while still maintaining our cultures in mind.
Okay, so I will be talking about Ecuador. Um, Despite its relatively small size compared to places like Brazil or Argentina, Ecuador actually has a lot to offer people. It's home to tons of colonial towns, the Amazonian rainforest, and the peaks of the Andes, and as well as the Galapagos Islands. Fun fact: it was these islands, the Galapagos Islands, that Charles Darwin based his theory of evolution on because there he discovered the different species of finches. Now, some more great facts about Ecuador is that its national tree is called the cinchona tree, and this produces quinine. This is the first drug used to prevent and treat malaria, actually. It's one of only two countries in South America that does not share a border with Brazil. Its primary language is Spanish. We aren't, Ecuador isn't very formal per se, as in everybody treats each other like family there. But nowadays, things have been very tense with the situation boiling in Venezuela. Thus, we're getting lots of refugees coming in. So this has been creating lots of tension. There's also a problem with Ecuador being that we have a very big problem with corruption. Every single president we have had has been known to for money laundering and um, taking money from other peoples. And as of late, there's a new president who we hope this time won't be as corrupt as the other ones. He's actually cracking down on all the officials who have broken the law in order to better benefit themselves. Um, some more facts about Ecuador is that its capital is Quito, and it was actually the first country to officially recognize the rights of nature. What this means is that most places like America, they treat nature as property. But Ecuador recognizes that nature has rights. It has the right to exist, persist, maintain, and regenerate its vital cycles. Another great fact about Ecuador is that the summit of Mount Chimborazo, it's Ecuador's highest mountain, it's the point on Earth closest to the sun. So that means that Ecuador is actually the closest country to space. We have many types of foods. One food in particular, which is my personal favorite, is called tortilla de verde. What this is that it uses green bananas, which we call verde, and we make tortillas out of them. So we put cheese in the middle, in the center, and then we surround it with the verde, and then we fry it. Now, it is also known that Ecuador is named after the equator, which runs through the country. It is, in fact, the only country in the world officially named after its the geographical features of it. Thus, Ecuador equator.
I'm here to talk about the similarities and differences in our cultures. We are a monochronic group, and we do have some similar values. We believe that family is in our top 5, and it is extremely important to keep family and love in our life. Independence is also a very important thing for our group, and we love to have independence and structure when we do certain activities. Our differences, our values do differ in certain areas, including religion. Love is a very strong emotion to us. However, it's on different levels of importance to each one of us. All of our cultures are different based on just the country, but we do have certain things that are in common. Like I said before, our values, our independence, how we're monochronic and stuff like that.
Peru has 3 main regions that could be identified as coast, mountains, and jungle. Spanish is the official language, but they also have another 47 native languages, including Quechua and Aymara. Peruvian food is now recognized as one of the best food in the world. Some examples will be ceviche, lomo saltado, ají de gallina, and papa la huancaína. Peru has a wide diversity of both musical styles and dances, such as marinera, festejo, huayno, and danza de la selva. In general, Peru is welcoming just like its people, who are incredibly attentive to their visitors with food and typical celebrations. Peru is really passionate about football, and this is a great reason for family and friends to get together. Peruvian people are very religious, and Catholicism is one of their strongest religion, but they live peacefully alongside other belief systems.
Good afternoon. My name is Andres Molina, and I'm going to be talking about the impact that Generation Z is going to have on the world. As of right now, the main belief system across the planet is Christianity, with over 2.4 billion followers. Generation Z is the first generation to grow up in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is the combination of technology being implemented in civil life and business life. This leads to a decrease in faith among Generation Z and an increase in realism. The reason for this is because Generation Z has a more immediate access to technology, and they are being influenced in different ways by different cultures across the planet due to multiple social media apps and YouTube becoming so popular amongst Generation Z. Studies show that Generation Z is liberal when it comes to the topics of lying, abortion, marriage, sex before marriage, and homosexuality, with having the lowest percentages compared to other generations when it comes to these four topics. This is going to lead to a world that is more open-minded, where people can express themselves and be themselves in the true way that they want to be. This is going to help, hopefully, with our world issues, so that hopefully countries with leaders from our generation will be more open-minded and will be able to work with each other to help solve the problems that the world is having as a whole.